Okay, I wanted to build a PCP rifle, and I figured maybe I could start with something that already had part of the work done for me, so I wouldn't have to do the whole thing. And I got kind of lucky, actually. I bought this Spyder Victor off the off eBay. I think this was made in 2005. Is about when this was made. But it looked like it was heavy enough to do what I wanted to do. And so anyway, what I did, I took it all apart, I checked everything out, and I had to modify some parts. This is all completely original. I haven't modified anything on it. Originally, the bolt and the hammer worked together as a single unit. And it has an O-ring seal here, and it blows air back. And that moves the hammer, and that also pulls the bolt. Well, of course, I wanted that separate. And so I cut the pin down, and then I put a roll pin in here, drilled it and put a roll pin in there. And then this here is a piece of stainless steel tubing that I had, and I just TIG welded a piece of tubing in there. I had to weld it in the front and the back because there's not much area there, you know. So anyway, the hammer, that's the only thing I'd modified on it. I did add some lead to the inside. Originally this weighed 2.4 ounces, and now it weighs 2.8 ounces. And then this here, like I said, I cut this pin down. I put that roll pin in further forward, so that way the bolt doesn't interfere with the hammer. Also, too, it had a really big void area in here, and so you can see I took one of these JB Weld epoxy sticks and mixed some of that up and kind of pushed it down in here and worked it around inside all the way around on the bottom and everything to fill up part of this huge void area. And let's see if I can get in here. You probably want to see my barrel. This is the barrel where it goes in the receiver. And I cut this in half, and the top half I cut off is actually inside there, if you see. It's held in with this screw and some Loctite. I installed a pin in there too. And if I can get light in here. Yeah, you can see where you can see how the air gets in there. And I took a Dremel tool in there and kind of opened those up more towards the middle. If you look at the barrel, I've actually beveled the back side of it right here, and to help get the air in there. And then when these slide together, that top half fits over, and to close up as much void area as possible. And then the rod, of course, pushes it up flush to the end of the barrel. But that's about it on this. This barrel is actually a M1 Garand D-mill. I ordered that from Numrich. I got that from gun parts company. And they advertise them to be 15 inches minimum or something like that. Well, they're not. They're less than that. So I ended up, after I cut off the part, they actually shear cut them on the end here with a shear, so it smashes them. So after I got rid of the smashed part, I ended up with a 13-inch barrel. It's about 13 5/8 overall to the very end here. And it has a port in the Garand barrel to work the bolt and stuff, and that port I covered up with this, I bored out a piece of aluminum, and just press that over to block that hole so the whole barrel will function. And then I just stepped it as I needed. I pressed these collars on. There's actually two of them. I pressed one on and then added a second collar to get the length right. And then I put this one O-ring on here. That O-ring is the seal for the bolt. When the bolt closes, it seals right there to seal up that whole thing. On the valve, can't remember. This has got a .230, I think is the port size that goes up to the bolt, and it's the same size in this too. That's the stock valve that I modified. And then I changed the spring. I got a lighter spring for it. To hopefully that'll help too. But originally, this shaft was a bigger diameter, and then they had a flat spot milled off of it. And what it would do is it would blow air through the back here, and that's what blew the hammer back and operated the semi-auto part. Well, I didn't want to do that, so I machined this down, and I just turned this down until that flat spot disappeared, whatever size that was. And then this hole was too big, so then I center drilled it here to get a bevel, and then I machined a piece that would fit in there, just a little bit longer, and then I used a big center punch to flare it on the inside to seat it so it wouldn't come out. And then I sealed it up. You can actually see. I used some self-penetrating Loctite on there to seal that, so it's all sealed up. But that's the, I would say that the most restricted part is probably here. And what else do I have? It's got a pretty good trigger. This has got a pretty good trigger on it. I'm going to use a heavier spring in it. I ordered a spring kit off of eBay or something. It comes with 4 springs. There's the original spring right there, the factory one. And it comes with 4. This is the red one, I believe, is the heaviest. And that's the one I'm going to put in. So it'll have the most hammer power. I took this, the tank bracket off, and I changed that to one that will let the tank sit straight. Right now I'm just using right now I'm just going to use a conversion to use the these 12-gram CO2s while I'm testing. Eventually I'm going to use this tank here on high pressure air. I'm not sure what kind of pressure I'm going to run at it yet. This is the part that goes in here. This is probably the weakest link of the thing. This is only held in with 1 screw. And I think if I increase the pressure, I'm going to put another screw on each side right here to have 3 screws to hold that in. This valve sits in here, and it's held in place by this pin. And then there's also there's a fitting that screws in and catches this hole. So that's held in there pretty tight, I think. I don't think that'll have a problem with blowing out. So the weak point would be this right here. This didn't have much area, and so I bored it out. I counter bored it here, and then I drilled it. It only had an 1/8-inch hole going back to this port, so I drilled this, it's about 3/8 or so, all the way back to the end to increase my, the valve area that releases where the air releases. And then I added this on. It wasn't quite half. I read that you need like half the volume of the barrel, and so it wasn't quite half. It was just under it. So I decided I would add this. And this is a fairly open threaded nipple. I'm not sure how much pressure it'll stand. I got to order one that's seamless tubing. This is stainless steel, and I'm not sure if it's seamed or not. I couldn't tell by looking at it. Anyway, so this is bored out to like what, 5/16 or something, so that adds to that volume. And then, like I said, I got this adapter for the 12 grams to use temporarily. I'm retaining the original barrel. I'm actually using it as a barrel shroud. And it fits over and screws in and actually holds the barrel. That's what holds the barrel in place. So it looks pretty good on there. Anyway, I'm going to test fire it today here shortly. So I'm going to put it together and see if it works. But that's it so far. I forgot to mention I don't I don't have a way to lock the bolt in yet. It just free floats in there. So what I want to eventually do is probably put like a side lever on it, I think. I don't want to have to cut this and put a regular bolt in it. So I'll probably put a side lever mechanism that it attaches to this attaches to the plug here. Some kind of a mechanism, but right now I'm just using I'm going to use a wood wedge to wedge this closed while I test fire it like that. And that'll support the bolt closed so I can test fire it. And then I'll figure out, later on I'll figure out how I'm going to do this. I'm not sure yet. I think it has to anchor. I could probably use this screw too. It's got a pin here. But that's the only thing I got to finish, and then it'll be done. I'm going to put a buttstock on the end of the tank like you've probably seen some of the other rifles have. Okay. Going to do a 50 grain one first. Wow. 447. .432. I stopped the camera so I could go get a pencil. So that shot was 432. These pellets are a little loose too because they're the barrel's a 308, and these are I'm not sure. I think I measured one. They're like maybe 1 or 2 thousandths over 300. .452. That's with 44.75 grain. So that's pretty good. I'm actually pretty happy with that speed. I'm only running off these little CO2 cartridges. I'm not sure how much air this thing will take, air pressure wise. It should be able to take as much as a Marauder even, you know. I really don't see why not. The aluminum is, the whole receiver is 1/8 of an inch thick aluminum. So it's, .440, slowing down. I guess this is going to be my last shot. .430. Pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with that, I think. I think I put high pressure air on it. It'll shoot a lot better. Well, I guess I'm pretty happy with that. The FPS worked out to 435.2 over those first 5 shots. And I'm pretty happy with that for just using these little CO2 cartridges. That's and it's 30 caliber, so on high pressure air I'm going to boost it up some. I'm not sure how high I'll go. I don't see any reason that this can't go as high as a Discovery anyway. The weakest point is this plug being held in with this one screw, and I can put another screw on each side. The valve is held in by this pin and that lug that screws in the bottom of the plug. So that's in there pretty tight. I don't think that'll blow out. So this is the weakest point. I need to replace this one nipple right here because that's not a high pressure rated nipple. So it's probably good right now for CO2 or 850 PSI air. But if I go any higher, I need to replace that with a seamless piece of pipe. But that's it. That's what it looks like. Like I said, I'm pretty happy with the results so far. See ya.